Hi everyone, this is Sujita. Welcome to the Focus Net GRF English Literature channel. Today we are going to see the Tudor period. The previous social history of England period, I told you about War of Roses, 100 Years of Wars, about the Anglo-Norman history. So at the end of Anglo-Norman history, you can find that Henry Tudor defeated Richard III and he take up England. So from thereafter, the Tudors period it began. So their period is from 1485 to 1603. Let's see about Henry Tudor first and then about his sons. So Henry Tudor, the Welshman, who descended from the Lancastrian family, he married Elizabeth. She's from the Yorkist family. So this is how they made friends with the two groups of families who fought for some years in the War of Roses. So now they have joined together as a man from a Lancastrian family married a woman from a Yorkist family. So thus there is a result between the two rival families because of this marriage. Now Henry Tudor, he assumed himself the title Henry the Seventh. So no, this is the period. It is his period. There is you can tell that there is a dividing line between medieval and modern times. So till now we saw medieval period. So hereafter it will be like modern period. So Henry the Seventh, 1485 to 1509. When he came to the reign, he stabilizes the finances of the country. He made his eldest son married to Catherine of Aragon. She is the daughter of King Ferdinand. He is a very, very, very powerful king and the European monarch. So he wants his reign to be so powerful. That's why he made his son married to Catherine of Aragon. But the son Arthur, he died. So he then marries, he did not leave just like that. He then made his second son to marry the widow of his first son. So that's how the mentality of Henry VII. So during his period, there were two Italians, John Cabot and his son. They discovered Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's a kind of small place, small country. So during his period, it was founded, and you can see the um, what kind of gain they got after founding these two places. Only after the 16th century, you can understand what kind of gain they got by discovering these two lands. Okay. So next come Henry the Eighth, 1509 to 1547. He is only 18 when he succeeded his father. He is handsome, he is so religious and very, very intellectual, and he can speak so many languages. Look at that. He is so intelligent. He has rare gifts from his family, but he lived a debaucherous life. He is into he is so into sexual life. He considered that to be great important. Though he was so intelligent, though he has some rare gifts, he lived a debaucherous life. He became so bigoted and ruthless. You know what he did? He just beheaded everyone that opposed him. He wants everyone to abide by him. But anyone goes against his will, they'll be just beheaded. So that's the kind of person who Henry VIII was. Look at his marriage life. I told you he lived a debaucherous life. He married six times. Okay, six times. And it is so soon. And he did not wait for the next wife. He married sixth time, and that is very soon while he was in his reign. So, first one, yielding to the persuasion of his scheming father, that is Henry Tudor, he married his elder brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon. Okay, he was not interested with her. They gave birth to Mary, so he wants a heir to his throne after him. So he then married. He gave that as an excuse to marry Anne Boleyn, who is a lady in waiting for Catherine the Aragon. But Anne Boleyn was also beheaded for infidelity. He then married Jane Seymour, who died of premature, but it was actually natural death. She was the one who gave him a heir. So his next marriage with Anne of Cleves, she's a German lady, was actually arranged by Chancellor Thomas Cromwell. But he found Anne of Cleves to be ugly and he divorced her right after the marriage. And he even executed the matchmaker, that is Thomas Cromwell, because he made him to marry an ugly woman. Then he married Catherine Howard, who is younger to him by 30 years. She was also executed on the charge of immoral conduct. He then married at last Catherine Parr. She somehow, she outlived him. So this is the history of his marriage. And there is a great event that happened during his period, that is Reformation. Reformation in the churches. Just because he wanted to marry Anne Boleyn, the second wife of him, he made a new church, he made new rules, he made himself the head of the church. So that is the division. Roman Catholics and the Protestants who protest the king. They were called as Protestants. He suppressed the monasteries. He said, Pope is not the head of the church and the country. King is the head of the church as well as the country. He suppressed the monasteries. And thereafter, there is a great change in the spiritual and temporal life of the people. He built a new church. It is called as Church of England, with King as the supreme head, came into existence during his period. Church of England, King is the head of everyone, even the Pope, because the Pope did not allow him to marry, did not allow him to divorce Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, because it does not abide by the law of the church. So he made his own law, own church even. So that's how Church of England happened. Renaissance, there is also in his period, the Renaissance began. Okay, there is a beginning. It's a beginning time of Renaissance. And we have Sir Thomas More. He wrote Utopia in 1516 during his period. Even he was killed by Henry VIII because he went against Henry VIII. Then we have Wyatt and Surrey, who introduced Italian sonnet and blank verse into English. So this is all happened during the period of Henry VIII. Next come Edward VI, youngest child of Henry VIII and Jane Seymour, his third wife. So he was only 10. So he was guarded by his uncle, Duke of Somerset, who took measures to dissolve all the chantries and pious foundations. Archbishop Cranmer, it was in Edward VI period, Archbishop Cranmer, he prepared a prayer book to be used in the newly established National Church, that is the Church of England. So he prepared a prayer book to be used in the new established church. Edward VI, he died of consumption in 1553. Next comes the Mary Tudor. You can also call her as Bloody Mary because she killed everyone who's against her like his father. She's the eldest child of Henry VIII by his first wife Catherine of Aragon. Mary made an attempt to revive Roman Catholicism, but people did not agree. She died of dropsy in 1558, but during her period, it was only 5 years, less than 5 years. But she had killed so many people, and so she was called as Bloody Mary. After Mary, there comes Elizabeth, a legend, Elizabeth, 1558 to 1603. She is called as the Virgin Queen of England because she didn't marry throughout that period. She is the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, his second wife. She ruled nearly half a century. Half a century. Her first effort, she was very good. She was very good. As a woman, she took a lot of effort in establishing, in developing her country in all fields. So her first effort was to settle the religious issue started by her father. So her father had divided the church into two. So she tried to settle the religious issue, and she did it actually. She established the Church of England with strong foundation, which was founded by her father. She made it very strong. She ordered to use the same prayer book all over England, all over the churches in England, and preaching and praying should be done in English language. That was her order. And that should be done by an educated, married clergy who's close with the people. And she also made sure that church attendance on all Sundays and other days of obligation is compulsory. She made it very clear about that. Her period is a period of tremendous progress in all the fields. So look at that great literary luminary. She was very much into literature. She appreciated literature. She appreciated the literary people during her period. Edmund Spenser. We have the great William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe. We have Ben Jonson. We have George Chapman. We have Philip Sidney. All these people made their masterpieces during her period. And she even held Shakespeare in high esteem and appreciated in particular the characterization of Falstaff. She liked that character, Falstaff. It was also a glorious period of maritime enterprises and foreign trade. She was not only good at literature and so on, she was also good at war. She made her soldiers to fight against the Spanish Armada who attacked England during 1588, but she made the soldiers to fight again. She gave the courage to the soldiers to fight against the Spanish Armada that came during 1588. And she is also very good at the economic too. So it was also a glorious period of maritime enterprises and foreign trade. And a great seafaring men like Sir Walter Raleigh and his half brother Sir Humphrey Gilbert Sir John Hawkins, Martin Frobisher, and Sir Francis Drake. They all accomplished their heroic adventures. They went on adventures, maritime adventures. And this particular event that boosted the England maritime reputation was the victory, I already told you, over the Spanish Armada in 1588. The soldiers were very discouraged when the Spanish they occupied, they tried to invade England during 1588, but she gave them the courage to fight against them, and they got victory, and they celebrated Queen Elizabeth. So Queen Elizabeth, she died in 1603. So that is all for the social history of England that happened during the Tudor period. So we will see some writers during the Elizabethan age in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned with me. Until then, goodbye.